The comments, opinions, and views shared during this program are of those individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of a Grand Lodge, Concordant Body, Appendant Body, Masonic Authority, or CraftsmanOnline.com.
Welcome back to the Craftsman Online Podcast, the only Masonic podcast endorsed by the Grand Lodge in New York. I'm your host, Right Worshipful Brother Michael Arce. This week's episode, a little bit of a tough topic, I think, for some of us to handle. We're living in that era where, our lodge doesn't have as many members as we would like to, or the building isn't in the best shape that we would want, or sometimes our finances are just kind of struggling. And we need to kind of bring it back. And how do you do that? Where do you start? Where is an example that we can turn to? Well, I hope I have found a repeatable success story in Altamont, New York. That's where you'll find Noah Lodge 754. And my guest this week, Worshipful Brother Johnathan Wilsey. Welcome to the Craftsman Online Podcast.
Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate you inviting me. And I am very glad to be here and looking forward to the experience. I'm doing my first podcast and communicating with brothers that I think is worldwide about what we're doing in the small village of Altamont, New York.
Let's start with taking people to the village of Altamont, which is a really special place here in upstate New York, famous for the fairgrounds. There's the apple orchards there, and there's the quaint little village that I think you can top out at about 20 miles an hour. You can probably pedal a bike faster in town than drive a car. What is life like in this very rural area of upstate New York?
Great question. So Altamont has no traffic lights within the village limits. We have stop signs, and we have a couple of crosswalks, an elementary school. There are 1,700 residents in the village. There are a number of nonprofit organizations that each have a specific function, and they work harmoniously. But it's all of that diversity that, when it comes together, makes Altamont as wonderful as it is.
It's funny, you had mentioned that worldwide audience, and for anyone that thinks that like all of New York State is like New York City, this is probably just exploding inside of their mind. Like, what are they talking about? Like, no, this is a very rural country place. The first time you visit this lodge, you feel like you're kind of walking into a friend's house, would be the way I would describe it, with a mixture of the typical lodge feeling where it feels a little bit like a church, just not in a religious context, but just in the community that's there. But you can definitely tell that the building that's there has been cared for and is loved by the members, the brothers of that lodge. And that's kind of where the real grist of this podcast came from, is I had the pleasure of attending one of your meetings, and you were talking about, not only the investment that you've put into it financially, and I want to get to that, but a lot of the work to revitalize the physical building of the lodge. Can you talk to some of the importance of having just that strong foundation of having a building that's up to date?
Our property neighbor on one side is a Lutheran church. They were founded, I think, in 1872. Our lodge, Noah Lodge number 754, was founded in 1874, not in the building that we're currently in. Our building was built in 1913 through grassroots movements, fundraising. We've got this unique building that it was built for its original intent, was a Masonic Lodge. It's not an old repurposed church that has been retrofitted for masonry. It was built for masonry. And in 1913, it was also built as the community meeting space for the village of Altamont. We've got, you think of your typical lodge where there's the large lodge room, there's a few interior rooms, and that's about it. And in our building, that's about it also. Our first floor is an entryway with a grand staircase that leads up to the second floor, where all the lodge room and activities are. But downstairs, we have a 60 by 30 open room, single span open room, 25 or so foot ceilings. It used to be a movie theater. So the space has been always viewed as a community-focused space.
I call it the 5 points of brotherhood, which is community. And when it comes to community service, and in order for the community to care about you, you have to be invested in the community. And some of us do it through donations or the charitable giving that we do, which is fantastic. But I think the real connections as to what you're talking about are the meaningful ones, where your building is looked at as like for over 100 years, 5 generations of folks in Altamont have been gathering in that building and have looked at that as like a central place to be. So when you took on this large project of revitalizing the lodge, we're going to talk about the culture side of it because that's really the real big part of this. But the other component is, yes, a lodge is the brothers who makes up the lodge, but we have to have a building to be in. And if this is a play or a movie, your lodge building is one of the central characters in this story. Without it, I don't know if Noah Lodge still has that same feel to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of our younger members all live within walking distance of the lodge. Most people live within the village limits. It allows for other people from the community to come together and they could see our membership growing. They could see good quality, honest, hardworking men gathering at the lodge like used to happen. Like when my great grandfather was a Mason, when they'd gather at a lodge, and we're able to get that feel back in the community. It's taken a little time, but the community, I feel like, is recognizing that and appreciating our presence and embracing what Masonry is at its core.
So I'm sure our listener from other parts of the world is like, okay, great. It's a small little community. It's a village in upstate New York. You're originally not from the Altamont area. You moved there, correct?
Yeah. So I was raised in another rural lodge in Schoharie. My story, I was raised in 2008 and I was 25 years old. My great grandfather was a Mason. That's what really got me interested into the fraternity. And I went through the process, got raised, and then 6 months later was moved to Massachusetts for work. I never went back to lodge. So here I am at 26 now, working and living in a different state. I was young with no family, and really didn't re-engage with Masonry past that point. It took me almost 10 years to re-engage with the fraternity, with the organization, which happens to be only about 20 minutes from where I was raised and where I was born. And I said to my wife, I'm like, honey, there's a lodge right down the street. It's probably a sign. I should start going again. And she's like, of course, you're like, yeah. So I was at that time looking for something. I needed that thing for me, right? I feel like I needed that thing what is the thing that John Wilsey's going to have that really isn't family related, where I can go and just do my thing for a couple hours every week or every other week, feel fulfilled, and then come back. And I said to myself, I'm already a Mason. It's been a minute since I've been to lodge. And believe me, I had to get refreshers on everything. But I should probably go again. And I did.
It's one reason why I wanted to do this podcast episode with you was because after visiting Noah, I saw that it was evident that a change had taken place at this lodge. The fun fact here, the story behind the story is when I was leaving the capital region to move down to DC for 5 years, I left here in 2021, and Noah Lodge, to what you're saying, it was known as, hey, there's barely enough guys for them to open the lodge. Really good guys, very sweet guys, but they usually just drink coffee and hang out downstairs. And it's like, who knows if they're going to exist as a lodge in 5 to 10 years? Because who knows if they're going to find any new members or if anyone's going to be there. And it's like, oh man, that lodge has such history and such a connection. It would be kind of sad to lose them. It was amazing to come back here and we were doing a ritual competition in our district. And all of a sudden, here's this Johnathan Wilsey and your now junior warden who's sitting there in the South doing the Q&As during the ritual contest. And I'm like looking at their name badge and I'm like, does that say Noah Lodge? Like Noah Lodge is doing the ritual competition? Like what? And then my brother was like, dude, they've really turned that lodge around. And it got me thinking to something that Right Worshipful Gary Salgado said last year, where he said, no one wants to join something where they're told that it is dying or they're feeling like they're missing out on something. Like nobody wants to be a part of that. So I get a sense of you were compelled. You wanted to be that agent of change, but that's great. You also need to put together a plan. So what was the deal, or how did you pitch this revitalization plan to these brothers who were just kind of used to sitting there in folding chairs and going through the motions?
I said to myself, I'm like, I've got to put a personal goal together of what I want to accomplish for our lodge. How do I make this easy, memorable, repeatable, obtainable, And it dawned on me that the only thing that we need is it's the only thing that any lodge needs at the beginning is people. We need community service, but we can't do community service with just one. We need people to do community service. So the very first step is finding others who have the same value set that I had, because I'm the one trying to find them, right? I said, this is my personal goal. So if I'm going to recruit, is that third rail world, right? If people don't like the word recruit, and I'm going to be the first person to say this, if you don't like the word recruit, switch it with engage. I need to find men to engage with. I said, John, you can do this. Find 3 good quality men per year for 3 years in a row. This was my personal goal, to be able to do this.
Where did you find these guys? Because they're not just growing, no matter how fertile the lands and the soil is around Altamont. They're not just growing good guys out of the good guy tree around there that you can just harvest. Like, where did you find these guys?
Yeah, they're my neighbors. They're all great guys. We hang out anyway.
Nice.
Honestly, we've got an elementary school. We all have young kids. I see these guys dropping off kids at school events, and we just talk. And we're talking about sports. We're talking about this. We're talking about that. We're talking about something happening in the community. You're in a fraternity, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, or no. And I say, look, are you interested in engaging in community activities and doing good things for your community? And if they say yes, I say, great. We've got a highway cleanup that we're doing in 2 months from now. It's on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you want to help out, we're going to pick up garbage up and down the road for 2 miles. And I can't tell you, Mike, the number of men that go, count me in. And here I am, scratching all the hair off my head, going, guys want to pick up garbage? Okay. So, we use some of these community-facing activities like a highway cleanup, like pancake breakfast, as an opportunity to find men who are of sound moral mind, good, upstanding citizens in their own community, and put them to work. We make them labor. And they smile while doing it. And at the same time, they get an opportunity to meet other brothers in the lodge who get an opportunity to connect with them on their own level. And by the end of the engagement process, which is usually over 4 or 5 different events, most of which are community focused, by the end, they're like, how do I join Masonry?
So I got to ask the other question is that they're coming because, and I love the hook. The hook is community service, which is a big part of what we do. I think leadership, personal growth and development are also key things. There's the brotherhood. I mean, you're touching all of the bases, but community service is a great leader to pitch somebody as an opening line to get them into that elevator pitch of Freemasonry. But when you start to get to the other parts of it, like, oh, and then there's this ritual and there's this and like all of the, the Masonic words and terms that we use, do you feel that they're already hooked because the community service and it's easier to have that conversation, or those questions don't even come up? They're like, yeah, I'll do all these things. A catechism? Sure. I'll memorize a bunch of stuff in Old English. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, they don't really, the prospective candidates don't really even ask.
I think it's because you've already made the connection. So any of the normal barriers or challenges or complications, they don't exist because there's already this, well, hey, I'm used to hanging out with John and these other guys. They're all friends now. They're good people. I can trust them around my house, my family, my pets. If I go out of town, they're great. We're neighbors. Our kids go to there's this connection that goes beyond things. There's already, as we would say, there's a bond that's starting to be built. And now we're just getting into that mystic tie in the fraternity. And now it's just deeper than deep.
Yeah. So, I would encourage anybody to ask themselves, how do they explain Freemasonry to another human being? And mine is simple. Yes, it's an exclusive fraternity designed for good quality human beings, good quality men. There is a ritual aspect to it where somebody has to prove that they have the ability to memorize content and recall what they did from 1 to 2 to 2 to 3. They've got to be able to do that.
Right.
They've got to have proof points that they're able and active to and have the ability to engage with others and do good work for other people. That you've already done, because we've done highway cleanups, we've done painting breakfast. You volunteer time at the lodge to do things. You helped us out with the gardening out front. I mean, you've already done that,
Right.
They've got to have the ability to be a upstanding member of their community and a good citizen. So all of these things are a yes. And so why would we not then talk to them about what membership looks like and what the commitment is, which is we meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, September through May. There are other times where we're going to meet and do other community things, which our members aren't required to attend, but in their heart, they choose to attend. And any new person coming into the fraternity should probably share those same values. Wouldn't you agree? I would say to you, you meet people every single day that you're like, that's a good person up there. The next time you meet that person, how do you engage them with another question to determine whether or not they're a good person? Your first gut was right. Your first gut check was right.
Yeah.
Third time you meet them, you invite them to do something around the community to see if they can put labor in. Can they work? Right? Are they willing to sacrifice some of their own personal time for the greater good?
Mm.
And if those things are a yes, let's have them meet other brothers and make sure that I'm right on the read here. That person then usually says, how do I join again?
I'm sure if we were to feature a story like this, and we should, in the Empire State Mason magazine for New York Masons, they would appreciate reading this, because so many of our lodges right now, whether it's a rural lodge or in a large metropolitan area, they're on the ropes, man. They're hurting. They don't have members. They're on the verge of losing their building, or the upkeep of their building is basically going to bring them underwater. And on top of that, they don't have members, and it's just a recipe for disaster. And it's really unfortunate to see kind of the decline of our fraternity, especially, our proud and strong fraternity here in New York State, just kind of minnow every single year as we're getting smaller and smaller. To hear a story like this gives you hope and gives you confidence. And I know that we weren't able to get into every detail, because there are some important things. As any lodge that would undertake something like this, there are key things that you just have to address. Great leaders provide a strategic plan or a vision for their lodge as to where they can take it and keep it, because I feel that when we're in the East as masters of the lodge, we are merely just a steward in the chair for that time. And our job is to ensure that not only our brothers in that time frame of going through the line and being a member of the lodge have a lodge, but also future generations can come and build on this experience. What are just some key non-negotiables or things you cannot leave off of that list?
Any nonprofit has to have clear, measurable goals that are easily read by their membership, by their people, and can be followed. And so, if you're in the East and you're thinking about, wow, what am I going to do? And it doesn't matter if it's your first time ever in the East or it's your 10th time in the East. But by the way, if it's your 10th time in the East, ask yourself, how many new brothers in your last 10 times have you found for your lodge and brought in, engaged, not recruited, with Masonry? If 2 brothers can find 2 and you can find 2, that's 4 people for a degree. When's the last time you had 4 people? Eight hands on a Bible for a degree work, right? I mean, just simple stuff like this is just basic goal set. When I first was in the East 2 years ago, my only goal was to find men that I could call brothers someday. I also spent my time cleaning our building. I've spent between 10 and 20 hours per week for the last 3 years in our building, cleaning, improving, moving, going through things. I mean, from having a rag with old English on it, taking our old wooden chairs to try to get that stuff to sparkle again, to a mop on the floor. This is just basic building maintenance. This is basic stuff that if you're going to ask the community to come support you, you've got to look like you're ready to be supported. And not like there's no paint on the window supported, but they're like, wow, this place has a lot of potential. I can see measurable improvement. I want to walk through the front doors. What do you guys do upstairs again? I mean, how do you get people to ask that question? And over time, when people see another human being investing and then seeing the improvements happen, they say, I can see where this is going. I also want to help get there. And that's when the first brother comes with you and says, let me also grab a rag or a broom or a mop or whatever the task is for that day. It may be just 2 people. we're fortunate enough in our lodge right now that when we need to do something, i.e., put on a funeral service for our past master, and we had 80 or so people upstairs in the lodge room. We fed 70 downstairs. This was an all hands on deck. Brothers, here's what we need to do. This is the plan, because I feel like I'm good at planning and saying, these are the people we need to do these stations. Here's the timing of what this is going to look like. Here's our meal prep and meal planning. Here's what photos are going to look like. Here's what music's going to be playing in the background. And then everybody goes to work. And it's a beautiful, wonderful, harmonious thing when it happens that way. And that's what I would encourage people to drive towards, especially if you're in the East. What are the things that you can improve, and other people will follow you?
I wanted to have you back on the podcast next year, not only to talk about your return to the East and continuing to leading this lodge, Noah Lodge, to where it's going, because I'm a fan, but there's also now this possibility you've saved one lodge and you've brought it back. It's above water. It's floating. It's doing great. It's thriving. But yet there's another rural lodge a little bit more down the road, but they've now started coming to meet in your building, and there's a conversation that's evolved with the idea of, hey, maybe these two lodges should merge together. I know that wasn't the topic for this podcast, but a revitalization has now turned Noah into a success, and the idea might be, hey, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who's suggested this. You've probably heard this 1,000 times, like, hey, Johnathan, Noah and Byrne should get together. You guys should just merge and become one lodge.
We talked about recruiting being like the third rail in masonry. Nobody wants to talk about it. The third rail on the other side is merging. Nobody wants to talk about that. And, Byrne has an older history than we do. We've been around for 152 years. I think they've been around for 156 years. The brothers there are phenomenal human beings, just good men. We get along really well. Their lodge and our lodge have two completely different identities. They have two different styles. They have two different meeting plans. And I'll give you an example. Some lodges offer a traditional meal before each meeting because that's fellowship. Noah Lodge does not offer a traditional meal before meetings. Instead, what we generally do is turn on some music, and because of the high ceiling, we throw cornhole bags. And brothers get together and socialize around an activity. We're envisioning a fellowship differently than other lodges. It's maybe a more modern feel, maybe a different thought process than what historically has happened in masonry. I feel like the identity between our lodge and our brothers at Byrne are completely different, and that is okay. There was talks about a merger, and quite honestly, I think that's not a right fit right now. I feel like there's so much going on with their building and them like literally getting rid of the facility. They're leaving their facility to come permanently move into the Noah Lodge facility on different nights. This is new for both of us. We've never experienced this. They've never experienced this. So there's some questions about how is this going to look.
Yeah, it's an interesting feeling because, just the conversation about that. And this is why I want to bring you back next year to expand more upon this, because mergers and acquisitions, that's kind of the next thing that's going to be happening, are mergers and consolidations, honestly. And masonry, if your lodge isn't thriving, this is what's most likely going to happen. And if your lodge is thriving, well, this is also most likely what's going to happen. You're a successful lodge, you're going to get partnered with some failing ones to bring them in. And it's not as easy as saying, hey, these lodges are only 10 minutes away from each other, or there's 10 guys in one lodge that also happen to be affiliated at another lodge. You've hit it right on each lodge is like its own individual personality, it's its own characteristic. It's like different kids in the same family. Your success could influence another lodge to become successful, to where maybe the outcome is you both meet in the same building, but as you said, on different nights of the week, which would be a win for everybody.
Grand Lodge in New York City, the building, there's how many lodges are made out of the one building? I mean, there's 15 rooms there. So, it happens all the time. And it can happen with our building as well.
Johnathan, the beauty of this podcast episode, it is literally the byproduct of a conversation I had with you maybe for, 20, 30 minutes after a lodge meeting. I was just so impressed with the plan and your leadership on revitalizing one of our quote-unquote country lodges here. And I know you have more thoughts on the future of Freemasonry and preserving our ancient gentle craft for future generations.
I want to change the fraternity as a whole. I want to evolve what we do. I want to make sure that Masonry in 2026 appeals in a different way to young men than it did to men who were younger 50 years ago. It has to. Today's man is different. We have 300 things that we could be doing, 200 of them with our kids, 50 or 5 with spouse, right? We have other organizations involved in. How do you get the 29, 30, 31-year-old starting out in life with a young family to join Masonry? And it has to be with evolution of the organization as a whole, not the ritual. The ritual must stay the same. But everything about Masonry has to evolve to appeal to a different demographic. Brothers are smiling, brothers' hearts are full, and people continue to show up. So I feel like the last 3 years have been the most work that I've ever put in, even like with real work. I mean, this is work. The fruit that has been produced because of this labor is remarkable for a village that has 1,700 people. That includes children.
I know.
Based on the last census. 1,700 people.
It's the thing my wife always says to me when I say, I got to go record a podcast, or I got to go get on a Zoom call for something with the Grand Lodge, or I've got it. And she's like, it's the job that you work, that you do all this work, but it doesn't pay any bills. I'm like, you're right. I make no money in Freemasonry. And at times I've often said, I work harder for my lodge and for my brothers than for this other job that I have to have because it pays the bills and supports my family. But to your point, the reward, dude, when you lie there at night and you're like, looking for purpose in your life. And I think that's one of the things that drives so many guys to the fraternity. And you're catching them at the pickup line at school and saying, hey, you want to pick up some trash on the weekend? Little do they know that this decision that they're about to make, as small as it may seem, is going to be one of the most meaningful and impactful things they're going to do with their lives.
It's great. You can lie in bed at night and say to yourself, what did I do good for somebody else? And as long as you're engaged with your lodge, doing good, honest work with other good quality men, you'll never have to say nothing. You'll never have to think, I didn't do any good work for somebody today, that my life was not meaningful, that I wasn't able to contribute to somebody else's well-being. And, we're in a world where men don't like to talk about mental health, where things just get overwhelming, and we feel like sometimes we have nobody to turn to. Every Mason has somebody and someplace to turn. It's the lodge that they belong to, and it's the brothers that they're members with. Those are your support system. If you have one, a support system, you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to go to bed at night thinking, what am I here for?
First time on the podcast, but it's not going to be the last time I hear his voice, I guarantee you. Worshipful brother, Johnathan Wilsey, thank you so much for your time on this episode of the Craftsman Online Podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Just a great episode, and we're going to get some bonus time with Johnathan this Thursday on our Patreon subscriber extra episode. Yeah, if you're not following us on Patreon or supporting the show with a $5 a month donation, you can try it out for free. We got a 7-day trial. Just open up the notes for the episode in the podcast player that you are listening to right now. That's where you'll find the link to try Craftsman Online on Patreon. I'm Right Worshipful Brother Michael Arce. Until next time, let peace and harmony prevail.